Hi, ViewRoyal's Budget Variance Dashboard, available on ViewRoyal's website at viewroyal.ca. The dashboard describes up-to-date financial information and includes metrics on non-core and capital projects. I'm going to take you on a brief tour to show what you can discover and learn about ViewRoyal, its finances, and its projects. When you first open the dashboard, you're likely going to land on the page that you see here. It has these buttons across the top that show you the different sections that you can navigate to. If you want to learn about revenue and expense, you'll look at one of these first two reports. Both are similar to each other, so basically once you know how to navigate one, you'll know how to navigate the other. Similarly, the two sections, non-core projects and capital projects, are functionally the same and provide the same information on different types of projects. Before you start though, you'll want to select the fiscal period that you are interested in. The choices are years between 2019 and 2021, but keep in mind, since prior year's information is also there, when you select 2019 as the year that you want to look at, it will also show you the prior year being, of course, 2018. I'm going to switch that back to 2021 for now. You can also filter the information by quarter, quarters 1 through 4. Of course, it will only show information that is available. For now, for example, we're looking at information that has been updated to the end of July, which is only 1 month into the third quarter. So you'll want to keep that in mind when you're looking at these results. There isn't quarter 4 information. So if I click quarter 4 here, you can see the numbers don't really change much. When you select the quarters that you want to look at, keep in mind that this will affect the year-to-date columns and not the budget columns. At ViewRoyal, we budget on an annual year basis, which means we don't break down the budget 1 month at a time. So the numbers will always represent the whole year budget compared to the year-to-date amounts that are particular to the period or month that the transactions were recorded in. The fiscal quarter that you choose will affect this target variance. What we mean by target variance is basically on an annual budgeting system where there is one number in the budget that represents how much we expect to spend in the whole year. When we are 3/4 of the way through the year, you would expect that about 25% of the budget is left, provided everything happens kind of on an even throughout the year basis, which isn't true for everything, and we'll talk about that in a minute. On each of the reports, you'll see a back button, which will take you to the previous page you were looking at, as well as a reset button, which will reset everything that you see to the default settings. If you happen to click on something and change some filters, not to worry, you can always reset it back to the default by pressing this button. The first graph on this chart gives you a snapshot of how we're doing at the moment in time that you've selected in your fiscal period. Looking at this first graph, this is a snapshot of how we're doing at the point in time that you've selected. You can see that the blue bar is representative of where we are at year to date and corresponds to the column below that is labeled year to date. The orange bar relates to our target variance. For example, if I was to change this to only look at quarter 1 and 2, that puts us about half the way through the year, so I would expect that 50% of our budget would remain. And indeed, the orange bar is about halfway between 0 and the total budget. So if everything was equal, you would expect that the blue bar would be at or near the orange bar. Where it isn't, there are notes. For taxation, since property taxes are billed for the whole year in May, we have exceeded the target and we've actually reached the total budget amount indicated by the dark gray bar. User fees include sewer user fees, which are only billed in October. Since we're only looking at quarter 1 and 2, that takes us to the end of June, we have not reached our target because sewer fees have yet to be billed for the whole year. But other categories, in this case of revenue, you can see how we are doing according to our target, and we're pretty much on target. So this chart corresponds to the table below. These are the numbers that drive the chart. What you can do with this table is that you can also drill down into further detail about each of these categories. For example, if you're wondering what is in sales of services, you can see that there are permits, sales of services, like other sales of services, licenses, and some other revenue. So you can kind of break it down by more details. When you're done looking at revenue, you can go over to operating expense by clicking on the button at the top, and you can see that the functionality of the dashboard is exactly the same. You've got your chart at the top. Your eyes should be going to the blue bar and how close to the target variance it is or not. You might wonder why. You can see what the total budget is by looking at the gray bar, and you can drill down into the various services to look and see what is happening. Usually the explanation for why we may be under budget will be because there is a lag in getting some invoicing. Let's look at the project section of this report. You've got the choice of either non-core projects or capital projects. Non-core projects represent a change to service levels or are new, non-recurring, or infrequent items. When you click the drop-down menu, you see you have two choices, metrics and financials. Metrics is the non-financial components of project tracking, and then of course financials are the numbers associated with the project and its budget. So let's look at the metrics. We're only going to be looking at 2021 projects. This will be updated each year. You can see that there are 14 non-core projects. There's a chart that describes the status and the schedule for the projects in total. You can filter each of the project lists by the department or the services that it relates to. When we click on the Protective Services bar, we can see that of the total 14 projects, 7 relate to protective services. These projects are listed in the table below with more information. You can see on the left the projects by status. By hovering over each section in the donut chart, you can see what we mean by the different statuses. For example, what do we mean by planning? If I hover over that section, we can see that planning means that preparatory work has begun. We're getting quotes, RFPs, any kind of proposals, an agreement, or we're working on agreements. So there's some planning stages. If you hover over the chart below, you can see what we mean by that term. The table provides the information that we track on the project. If you click on the link for that project, it will open the project summary document that provides complete information about that project and any implications for operational costs or future years. It will open in a separate tab in your browser, so just close that browser tab to go back to the dashboard. This section also has a back button if you want to return to a previous page, or a reset button if you want to clear all of the filters that you applied. Once you've learned how to navigate the non-core projects report, you already will know how to navigate the capital projects metrics report. It's laid out exactly the same. There are a few more projects and a few more services, but it responds exactly the same way. If you want to look at park services, click on the parks bar. You can see that there are 8 projects. You can see how many are in which of the statuses and schedules, and then you can look at each one of the details and click on the links to open the project summary. Let's look at the project financials now. Just do the drop down to financials. If you find that there is a drop down when you land here, you can just clear it by clicking anywhere or clicking on the drop down button again. So if I just want to look at parks projects, for example, I can click on the parks section and it's going to give me a list of those parks projects, the associated budgets, and how much has been spent to date, as well as how much is remaining to be spent. Once again, you can press the back button to return to a previous page, or you can reset your filters to go back to showing everything. The non-core projects financial report works exactly the same way. You can filter down by each of the individual services to list only those projects and see the budgets and year-to-dates. When you're done, you can close your browser, or you can click on the logo to return to View Royal's homepage. So that's it for the first iteration of our Budget Variance Dashboard. We expect that there may be some changes or updates over time, so watch for that. In the meantime, we appreciate your comments. Email to finance@viewroyal.ca. Thank you.